to order?
Absolutely, I would love to. I'll go ahead and read the opening statement. It's so good afternoon, This is the California Commission on Disability Access Education and Outreach Committee meeting is now called to order, Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. The Education and Outreach, so I'm going to go through some housekeeping items. The Education and Outreach Committee meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access headquarters located at 400 R Street, Suite 310, Sacramento, California, 95811. Per Senate Bill 189, the Bagley-Keene teleconferencing restrictions have been suspended through July 1st, 2023. Therefore, committee members are not required to list their remote locations. Members of the public may participate by Zoom or teleconference from any location. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The stream text live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak. We will also give that opportunity to the public who have called into the meeting at the time and they can unmute themselves. If you are attending the meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. To use the raised hand function, please follow these steps. Using via web browser, first click the icon labeled reactions in the toolbar on the bottom of your screen. After clicking reactions, a new window will show on your screen. Put my own words in. At the bottom right of the screen, there will be a button labeled raised hand. Using Zoom via mobile device, click on the 3 sideways dots labeled more. The more option is in the toolbar on the bottom right corner of the screen. After clicking more, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen. Press raise hand. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you're having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. And with that, I'd like to turn it back to Chair Commissioner Dr. Elhessan.
Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and start with agenda item 1, which is the roll call, which Phil, now I'll lead it back to you to do the roll call.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Dr. Elhessan. Please respond present or here when your name is called. Chair Commissioner Dr. Sue Elhessan.
Present.
Commissioner Hector Ramirez. Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez. Commissioner Ben Conway.
This is Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez, present. I'm sorry.
All right, gotcha. Absolutely. Commissioner Ben Conway.
Present.
Committee member Zinat Hassan.
Here.
Committee member Arnie Lerner.
Here.
Committee member Stephen Simon. All right, Chair Commissioner Dr. Elhessan. Roll is complete and we do have quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you. And I understand we do not have any members of the public present at this time.
That's correct. That's correct.
So
yes.
we'll move on. I'd like to welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for participating. I'm excited as we're moving forward this year. This is our first meeting for 2023. Yes, I see a raised hand. Regina Marie.
My apologies. We do have someone virtually that'd like to identify themselves. My apologies.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I am Regina Brink from the California Council of the Blind.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay. As I said, this was our first meeting for the year, and I look forward as we're getting together our items for action. And I know we'll be discussing this a little bit later on today. So right now we have, we'll move on to agenda item 2, which is our approval of the minutes for August 24th, 2022. I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review it. If so, can we please, oh, first, are there any comments from the public attending virtually on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, and so allow this, for this time, so we do a roll call for the minutes. Is there,
Right.
I'll let you go ahead and do that then.
All right. So I will now conduct a roll call vote for approval of the Wednesday, August 24th, 2022 meeting minutes. Please respond aye or nay when your name is called. Chair Commissioner Dr. O'Hessen,
Aye.
Commissioner Hector Ramirez, oh, he's not in attendance. Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez,
Aye.
Commissioner Ben Conway,
Aye.
Committee Member Zinat Hassan,
Aye.
Committee Member Arnie Lerner.
I wasn't here.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner O'Hessen, I'm sorry, Chair Commissioner Dr. O'Hessen, all CCDA Commissioner and committee members, voters have been noted. The minutes have been approved and submitted. And we had 5 ayes and two that were not available.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And this is
I'm sorry.
April. Was Arnie an abstention?
Yes, you
My
said he wasn't
apologies.
present.
We had 4 ayes. My apologies. Thank you, April. 4 ayes, 1 abstention, and 2 that were not available.
Okay. So given that, if there's no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item 3. So do we have any comments from the public on the issue that's not on this agenda at this time? Are there any hands raised? Staff that
yeah,
I
Commissioner-
don't see?
Yeah, no, Commissioner Dr. Sewell Hassan, there's nobody available. I don't have anyone virtually. That's
Right, that's
make
what
a
I was,
comment.
okay, great,
Sorry.
thank you. Okay, so if there are no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 4. And this has to do with our accessibility parking campaign. And I'll turn it over to our Executive Director, April Dawson.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen. I'm looking forward to talking with you a little bit about our accessible parking campaign. So over the last year, CCDA has embarked upon an accessible parking campaign to educate businesses and the construction industry about ensuring access to people with disabilities to the places that are built related to parking. Yeah, and this was also done in light of the fact that there seemed to be a trend statewide in or an uptick in alleged disability access violations related to parking. And we also noticed that given how the world has changed with COVID and parklets and places being used for parking, places traditionally used for parking now being used to extend business services, we wanted to provide the public with the ability to understand how they could fully make everything accessible for people with disabilities related to parking. And so we embarked on that journey. We are in the editing stage of 2 toolkits. We have convened 2 stakeholder groups, the first being the ADA coordinators and business owners and operators stakeholders group, and the second one being the construction industry stakeholder group, who met for the better part of 2022, as well as up to this point in 2023. They created 2 drafts with the assistance of staff, and the drafts were submitted to the Office of Public Affairs with Department of General Services, as well as the Division of the State Architect. And we received edits back from both entities. And we've started working on incorporating the edits from the OPA, the Office of Public Affairs. It was mostly grammatical and suggestions for switching sentences. The Division of the State Architect had some more substantive edits. And so I declare our fellow commissioner and state architect was able to come to our February work group meetings and talk with the work group members about those edits. And now what is going to happen is I'm going to be working internally to get some more technical staff on board for this project so that we can finalize those edits. Several of the edits were technical in nature that are beyond the scope of the staff that we currently have. And luckily, we have a lot of really good internal partners, as well as the state architect, who is going to assist us with finalizing the project. And then we're going to take those edits back to the work groups to see what they think. All of those work group members are people that are going to be utilizing this toolkit. And so I look forward to using the Education and Outreach Committee to assist us once it gets past the editing phase and it is ready to be distributed, how the Education and Outreach Committee can help us to disseminate it to those that you know, so that we can spread this far and wide and educate people about accessible parking. Thank you.
Great. I'll open the discussion. So when we're looking forward in doing this, are we also looking at different modalities of media that we're going to be looking as a group?
Yes, we've talked about doing it both in print and also online and making sure that they're in accessible formats as well as in different languages as well, not just English.
Right. Do we have any other suggestion, comments, or discussion in our committee attending today?
Chair Commissioner Alhassan, there appears to be no indication of any commissioners that would like to comment on the agenda item.
Okay.
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Please.
in San Francisco, we've been going through a process of accessible business entrance program that we have as part of our San Francisco building code. And part of that was an effort to try and help small businesses not get sued by drive-bys looking at their entrances, but also their parking lots is part of that. And so please make sure that this information gets to the San Francisco Department of Building Inspection.
Thank you. We will definitely be engaging with our local municipalities and the building departments on this project when we and in the dissemination. And I'm always happy to also have a meeting with you as well if you have ideas on that too. This is April.
So when we're looking at public access, and this has been brought up at a previous meeting with some public attendees in regards to public school areas. So if they're open to the public, such as grandparents attending, and what falls under that jurisdiction for accessibility in regards to parking?
Well, I can answer that, but I also want to also just sort of so that everyone knows the accessible parking campaign is targeted to private businesses,
Right.
and so we don't address school sites in the toolkit, but I understand what you're saying. Like, we could still talk about that as an issue. I do know that the ADA talks about when Title II entities can sometimes become Title III entities, depending on how the facility is used. So it kind of, there's a lot of nuances there, but when you're opening something to the public, you do have to make sure it's fully accessible to people with disabilities.
You're right, that's what I was thinking, because there are lots of events that we open to the public, and that's kind of my concern. I was thinking about how does that impact in regards to, I mean, many school districts are smaller, so some of them are pretty good in regards to having access, but others that are larger in size and have multiple sites across their cities, and they may not be as accessible. So that was one of my questions. All right, thank you. So since there's no discussion on this item, we'll move on to item number 5, which has to do with the focus groups. Committee focus for 2023, not focus groups. So I'll refer this to also our Executive Director, April Dawson.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Sue Alhassan. I just wanted to thank all of you for being here today, and I'm excited as Chair Dr. L. Hessen mentioned about the fact that this is our first meeting of 2023. And at the full commission meeting last month, I proposed several projects for each of our committees just based on the feedback that I received and the patterns of conversation that I've heard in all of your meetings. And I came up with 2 proposed projects for this committee, and I'd love to hear feedback as well as ideas for not only making these projects happen, but also any ideas for other projects that I may have missed. The first being that, the Education and Outreach Committee will monitor the effectiveness of CCDA's outreach plans and make recommendations. I mentioned at a couple meetings that we have an outreach and marketing specialist on the team, Presley, and we are really excited because she is someone who is assisting us with creating social media and other targeted campaigns to advertise what our work is and what we do, and to get it out to the public. And so we would love for the Education and Outreach Committee to give us feedback on ways that we could utilize social media as well as our partners' social media to put ourselves out there, and also make recommendations for who we may be missing. I'd love to hear from this committee who we haven't targeted in the past, who we should continue to target. And I would also love to hear about, things that may be in CCDA's purview that we haven't talked about in a while and that we haven't put out to the community. And then the second thing is that I heard quite strongly that this committee would like to develop educational modules on disability access for use on social media. So those are the two thoughts that I have put forward as a focus for this year that I think is well within our ability and well within this committee's purview and ability. And one thing I do want to mention before I receive feedback from all of you is that I'm still in the process of attempting to get CCDA our own social media handles. Right now, we only are able to use Department of General Services. So we're able to share things on their social media and get them out there, and then put them on our own pages or our partners' pages. And we're also able to leverage our partners' pages. But right now, we do not have access to our own YouTube channel or social media, such as Facebook or Twitter, Instagram. I'm working through department channels to try and make that happen. But in the meantime, we do have other options, such as utilizing other partners' pages and developing materials that could be disseminated in other ways. So with that, I would love to hear feedback on the 2 proposed project focus areas and others that I may have missed. Thank you.
Thank you, April. Do we have any suggestions or comments from our committee members or the audience? Yes, Zena, I see your hand.
Thanks. Would you mind just repeating the first and the second proposal kind of blurred together for me? Would you be explaining the second one again?
So the second one would be developing educational modules on disability access for use on social media. And some of the thoughts that I had on that would be we could pair the modules with like our toolkits, for example. So we could have, our suite of toolkits that talk about, restaurant access, accessible parking access, and then maybe we could have some modules. For example, this is just a thought. We could have people with disabilities trying to access a parking lot and having the exterior have a travel blocked or something like that, and saying, oh no, and here's how to fix it. And somebody comes out and explains the law or something like that. We could do creative, there's a lot of creative and fun things we could do. I mean, we could also do a PSA on what CCDA does and how we can assist businesses. I mean, really the sky's the limit on how we could utilize that. And then we could use those modules as accompanying training tools for our toolkits, as well as to get the message out about what CCDA does. And we could also use them in presentations. I give quite a few presentations to local municipalities and government officials and businesses about who we are and what we do. So it would be great to have some modules to accompany those, some fun social media or graphics or fun things to accompany just my voice and PowerPoint.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. I know we've taught in terms of like communities for targeted outreach. I know we've talked in this committee a lot about language access for business owners with limited English proficiency. Those tend to be like smaller businesses with folks who have a primary language other than English. So I would say that would be a big focus.
Thank you. I'm writing this down, taking notes.
Welcome, Hector. I see you joined us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We had strong wind over here, so we had no internet for a while. But
Okay.
if I can add, April, if I can make some suggestion, Oregon has a really good PSA kind of disability program called Rooted in Rights, which is a complete. And so when you were talking about that particular campaign, that's definitely what sounded so similar. That they were very successful with their approach, and so I would recommend that. Like I think other people that particular model.
Thank you. I've heard of that model, and I agree that it's really catchy, and they did do a really good job with their marketing and how they put it forward in an accessible way. I'll check those out.
I also see your hand up, Regina Marie. You're muted if you're trying to speak. Yeah, go ahead.
I think I found it.
Okay.
So I really think this is a great idea to raise awareness. However, when constructing social media, many times people forget that people with visual disabilities, especially those with low vision, I'm totally blind, so I'm more used to putting things together without an image. But people who have lost their sight later in life or have some usable vision, the images are very important, and adding alt text is comparatively simple now with a lot of programs. It's you highlight, kind of with your cursor, and then there's something you can check to say, add alt text, and you can either describe it yourself or they have some automatic things that, and it doesn't have to be, it could be person in a wheelchair trying to get through a crowded sidewalk. It doesn't have to be every little thing, but just to let a person know what the image is, especially capturing what your message is in those images. And it's something to think about, because a lot of people have dual disabilities too, so they could be in a wheelchair and have low vision. So.
Yes, thank you so much. That's a great point, and definitely should be included as part of our design process.
Thank you. This is April. I appreciate those comments, and we will make sure that all of our modules are accessible and contain alt text, and also that we conduct user testing to ensure that it's not just accessible by law, but actually usable by the user.
Right. Great. Thank you so much. I also wanted to mention, does the process of developing an app fall under the guidelines of general services, or does that something that we can do on our own as part of our website?
Developing you mean developing like an app for?
Right, so that it could be easily accessible in regards to our different literature we put out, modules, which all is relatable under what we do, or is that considered as also part of the media component, such as, Instagram or YouTube? I guess that's what I say, does developing an app is seen differently than social media?
It would be seen the same, because it would be something that anything that we put out publicly, we would have to get the approval of the commission as a whole, but also Department of General Services. I think that if we were going to develop an app, we would probably have to first, I don't know what the we may have to do like an interdepartmental like agreement to see if there's anyone in DGS who knows how to build apps. And if
Mhm.
they can't do it, then we would have to go out to bid for consultants. And to be honest, I'm not sure that I have no idea how much how much an app costs to build. But I know it probably takes some specialized thoughts and abilities. And so it would depend on what our resources were if we wanted to prioritize that over some projects over others.
We had in the past discussed developing an app as part of a resource tool for our through DSA for the guidelines of building and architecture design and accessibility from parking lots to entrance in the building and on. So it was discussed, but nothing had really was generated. So I'm not quite sure where we had left it off. Also, then when we're talking about our website, can we include information on our website and direct actually public or businesses to it in regards to education? For example, modules that we'll be creating, we can put it under our education outreach not category, but committee as a sub category of one of our commission roles, and just put information there as far as getting the information out to the public. And I was wondering how that would work. I know we were thinking of doing a newsletter too, so
Yeah.
that we would update more information as we're coming up, so that the public would be guided or businesses would be guided where to go in order to get that information.
Yes, we can once we develop modules or any other one pagers or other materials, they can be put up on our website. We do have the ability to do that ourselves. And we have been doing that, and we can continue to do that and make it more rich. We also have the ability to, once things are on our website, other people can, take those snippets and share them out.
Right.
And I think you asked another part of your question, and I apologize if I missed part of the response. Let me know if I didn't answer each part of your question, but yes, we have our website and we have the ability to add those things to it and share it out.
Well, so I was thinking as we're creating, and I know that general services usually takes a great deal of time in order to get back to you, in order for the wheels to start rolling, that as we're developing information that we can go ahead and start putting it on our website. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So Ashley, I see your hand up.
Yes, hi. I wanted to comment on Cheryl Heston, the website, and having kind of a hub on CCDA's website for small business owners. I wanted to also tell you guys about as a small business, I'm always looking for easier ways to like templates for websites and things like that. I think it would be worth looking into all of these main website building platforms and see what kind of ADA compliance they're already doing. I know I use Squarespace to build my website, and it's a template-based site. And I mean, I just did like a quick Google search, like how, integrated, and it's pretty awesome. And it sent me a link to something called supportmy.website. And they do free ADA compliance scans. So I think it would be worth putting something like that up for small businesses to say like, hey, not only do we have to look out for our parking spaces, like physical ADA compliances, but also digital, right? Like we've been talking about. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there.
No, that's great. And I've heard the pros and cons of that. I was on LinkedIn, and they were actually discussing how some of those sites, many businesses or small businesses turn to for 508 guidelines. And it's not as thorough, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ben or Zenit, on regards to that. So that's a great start, but also I want to make sure that if we're doing something like that, that we are referring businesses to to a website that would give them complete, 508 guidelines and not just piecemeal, so that they can't come back and later get sued or have a complaint in regards to that. That's just something that I saw recently.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
yeah,
Mhm.
but
Okay.
that's great. So what was it again? Square?
I use Squarespace, but I know the big ones are
Squarespace.
like
Okay.
Wikispace. There's
Yeah.
maybe like about five to 10 big template type building sites that small businesses use. So
I think that would be something, correct me if I'm wrong, April, that we would have to explore as a commission to see before we start referring.
Yeah.
What are your ideas about that?
Well, and I know that this perfectly dovetails to the next agenda item, because I'll talk a little bit about the website, how we're going to be promoting website accessibility in a moment. But I think that I do want to make sure that anything that we encourage people to use is vetted, and that we know that we can trust it. And it's great, though, that everybody's crowdsourcing ideas for what they've used that's helped. So as long as we know that it's something that the commission can get behind.
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great feedback from everyone. Thank you so much. If there's none, then I'm going to move on to item number 6. So this is what we were talking about in regards to CCDA response to Assembly Bill 2917 in regards to our role, education outreach role.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen. I just wanted to share how we are progressing with being compliant with AB 2917, and projected on the screen is text that talks about what the bill is, and I'm just going to articulate a summary of it. It was signed by the governor and chaptered, and it requires us as the California Commission on Disability Access to do a couple of things. The first thing is, all of us are, I think, aware, unless you're new, and welcome if you are, to our meetings, that one of our key purviews that we're required to do is to collect alleged disability access violations with regard to places of public accommodation, also known as businesses. And now this bill requires CCDA to collect alleged disability access violations related to websites and work with the Division of the State Architect, as well as the Department of Rehabilitation, to develop a toolkit to educate businesses. And we're supposed to do that by 2024. And so I've had some early conversations with DSA, Division of State Architect, as well as Department of Rehabilitation. The Department of Rehabilitation has already developed a really comprehensive website geared towards state and local governments on how they can make sure that their websites are accessible. And they've given us permission to crowdsource that website and help us develop a toolkit that would be geared toward businesses. So obviously the statutes are slightly, different, and the titles are different related to the ADA. So we wouldn't be able to just take it verbatim. We would have to develop it for businesses. And so we're in the early stages, but my goal is for us to start working on that soon, to be able to create this toolkit. And then we'll also utilize people who are both users of websites that need to be accessible, as well as business owners, to just really hear what are some of the things that you're seeing, and what are some of the trends that you're seeing with access, and some of the struggles that you're having, so that we could help give you the best information. And we'll also make sure that we are educating them on ways to not just avoid lawsuits, but to be usable and to attract more people to use your business and spend dollars at your businesses. And so how it's good for business. And then we'll also be collecting alleged disability access violations related to websites. And we will collect that data and share it with the state legislature every year, the way that we do with our other alleged disability access violations related to public accommodations. And if you see me looking over, I'm looking at my paper to make sure that I'm covering everything. So I apologize if I'm not making eye contact into the screen. But it also required us to create toolkits on accessible parking and include exterior passive travel, and we're doing that. And I spoke about that at length in a couple of agenda items ago. And I'm also working with the California Bar Association to develop some social media content for their sites to make sure that attorneys are aware of the new requirement to report their alleged complaints to the California Commission on Disability Access, so we could put it into our legal portal. And we've done a couple of upgrades to our legal portal. We have a website category now, and we're adding several more subcategories so that we could collect appropriate data. So we have sent those tickets in to the IT people with Department of General Services, and they're going to be adding several different subheadings related to potential access issues for websites, so that the attorney who has the complaint can properly classify it, so we get the right data, so that we could say, oh, here's some trends in the field about what people are alleging, and that could give us an idea of what we need to be targeting in terms of outreach and education. And we'll be doing the same thing that we're doing with our other toolkits as far as education and outreach related to the business compliance side. Once we have the toolkit, we could potentially do some modules with it, same with the other toolkits, and utilize this committee to help us get the word out. Thank you.
That sounds great. Are there any comments from our committee or the commissioners on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Dr. Alhassan, there appears to be no indication of any hands raised in the chat.
Okay. All right, well, thank you. I think I'm interested as this moves forward. I think a lot of the information we've started from in regards to our parking campaign kit, and as well as some of the information on our business compliance when we did the outdoor dining can be also modified and incorporated to some information for that also. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yes, sorry, this is committee member. Sorry, I had a late thought.
Go ahead. I didn't.
For the attorney compliance piece, I remember a couple of years ago we had a meeting. We had like I can't remember what we called it, like a roundtable discussion or something with attorneys from both sides. And I remember one of the issues that got raised was that the report, the Buchanan decision might interact negatively with like plaintiff's attorneys' ability to report. I don't remember exactly what the conflict was, but I remember that came up at the roundtable. So I just want to flag that because Executive Dawson, I know that was before your time. So I'm not sure if that's something we should maybe like follow on a little bit further and see and figure out like what the action plan or next steps is for that conflict.
Could you share a little bit more about the Buchanan decision? Is that related to the federal state court filing thing, or is that?
So it's more about catalyst fees. The Buchanan decision affected the ability of a plaintiff's attorney to recover catalyst fees. And I don't remember exactly how it interacted with like reporting for CCDA's purpose. I just like have that fuzzy memory of like someone suggesting that like this decision kind of impacts our ability to report or the timing of reporting. I can look back through my notes, but I'm sure I remember we recorded it. So CCDA should have a recording of that meeting somewhere.
Okay, thank you.
And that was chaired by Guy. Sorry. That was chaired by Guy Lemus.
Yeah, that's right.
So April, I think he might be able to give you more details since he was actively involved in that process of creating the roundtable and the discussion that went on.
Okay, I will reach out to him. Thank you both for that insight.
No, great point. Thank you, Zenette. I saw another hand up.
Hi, Doctor. It was me. This is Jeffrey Straneri. Hi. I am the ADA compliance officer for the city of Los Angeles, and although I've been able to lurk over the months in meetings past, I was hoping. I was particularly interested today because of the accessible parking zone program I resuscitated some time ago here in Los Angeles. And I wasn't sure where to interject during this call that I would really love to be formally invited rather than sort of jumping on my executive director, Stephen Simon's invites, because really this is so, all the things discussed within this community is so critical to Los Angeles. And in years past, I don't know if Ms. Jamat is still there, but she's been such a good friend early on with CCDA. And I guess I just really would love an opportunity to contribute. And I'm not sure I've been compliant or what have you in order to inject. So if there's a way for me to join your forum in a more formal manner, please allow me to do so.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I think, April, we can make a note of that.
Yes, and
Yes.
Jeffrey, we'd love to have you more engaged, and I put my email in the chat. It's just april.dawson@dgs.ca.gov. If you send me an email, then I'll have yours, and then I can make sure that staff loop you in on things, and then we can also set up like a more nuanced discussion between the two of us, maybe a Zoom call or a Teams call in the coming days, and we could talk about what that looks like for us. I'd love that. Thank you.
And Jeffrey, this is Hector Ramirez, Commissioner Ramirez. I'm in Los Angeles County, and I'm at the Department of Mental Health. So I collaborated. I haven't had a chance to meet you, but I do collaborate with your boss. So definitely, thank you for being here. I know LA County and LAC City have some work to do around accessibility. So I'm glad to see you here.
Yes, they do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for your willingness and openness to be an active partner. Thank you. Okay. I want to move on. If there's no other discussions at this point, I'd like to move on to our agenda item number 7, which has to do with the 2023 listening forums. And again, I'll turn the lead over to Executive Director April Dawson.
Thank you, Chair Dr. Elhessen. Well, I would love to talk a little bit about, thank you, Jeffrey. I see your email. I am going to copy that before we get off this call. So I'd like to talk with you about our listening forums. I know I've come a few times since I was appointed in August and talked about this idea for listening forums. And the idea behind that, it's something that CCDA has been known for, that we've been doing for the last several years, but unfortunately COVID kind of put a stop to some of the meaningful engagement we've been able to have. So we've had to get creative. But now what we are planning to do is bring back our listening forum model. And this is where we bring people from the disability community, people from the business community, as well as people from the legal and local municipality, local government community to talk about, let's talk about what are the barriers in our regions. And what are we facing in terms of, compliance? What are we facing in terms of access? What are the stories we tell ourselves about each other? How we are more alike than we're different? And we come together and we communicate in small groups about ways that we can address those issues. And so what we're doing in 2023 and possibly slightly into 2024 is we are putting together a series of forums. One of them will take place in the Bay Area, one in Northern California, one in Central California, and one in Southern California. And then we will have a sort of end-year, final forum that will come together and take a look at all the data we collected from each of the others. And the idea is each one will start out with a panel discussion with a variety of local leaders in the disability business and local government communities. And then there will be a facilitator. And then we will have breakout rooms. I'm used to the Zoom world, so it may not be necessarily rooms, but I'm used to saying breakout rooms. There will be breakout areas where we will have have a mix of business and people with disabilities in those rooms to talk about, what are some of the things that we're facing in our communities. And we want to see, what are the trends statewide? Are there trends specific to certain regions? Are there trends that sort of across different regions, and then it'll help CCDA inform our work in the future, as well as determine how we as CCDA could give local municipalities and regions resources to help overcome those. And then also to be a connector. Maybe people in that room will have met each other for the first time, and we could be sort of that go-between to facilitate conversation. Once we leave that room, they can continue to have about access, and they can also come from a strengths-based approach about what are we doing that's working particularly well that could be modeled in other areas. So I'm really excited about that. I will say that the planning is underway. Our first one is planned for San Jose, and we should have a date within the next couple of weeks. We've assembled partners from the local independent living center as well as the city of San Jose, and we're working on bringing in the business community as well. And so that one is the forum that is moving along the fastest. I've also secured interest from some Southern California partners as well as some Northern California partners. And so those are moving forward as well. So as things become more firm and dates are set, I will continue to update this committee about how it's going and how you can help spread the word and attend and possibly help co-facilitate some of those sessions. I'm really excited about it. And I'll also share that our plan is to make sure that we have not just captioners and ASL interpreters, which is key and very important, but also multilingual interpreters as well. We're working on securing a contract so that we can reach out to businesses that are not just English speaking, but people who speak a language other than English, or who may be from an immigrant community, who may be new to the US and trying to start a business, for example. So trying to reach people we haven't traditionally reached in the past. And we are planning to conduct those in person, but I also know that with COVID the way it is, we are thinking about also doing some Zoom components as well in between. We had talked about doing a hybrid model on the same day, but my concern is that if we try to do a Zoom with people in person, that the people on Zoom will feel not as part of the group. And so we're thinking about doing an in-person with a Zoom complement. So happy to hear ideas about how to best engage people in light of access needs and communication needs. Would be really helpful. But other than that, that is where we're at with the listening forums. So things are moving along, and I'll keep everyone updated and love to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, April. So I'll turn it over for comments from our committee or other commissioners on this agenda item.
Chair
We have
Commissioner
it.
Dr. Elhessen, there appears to be no indication of any commissioners in the chat that want to talk on the agenda item. Actually, there's a hand raised from Commissioner Ramirez.
Yes.
Thank you, April. Listen, this is actually a really neat thing. Very important. As people are recovering and rebuilding right now, it's the perfect time really to engage all of our Chamber of Commerce and business, especially all different sizes. Everybody's relearning how to do things and reacquainting themselves with having people physically, again, accessing their services, but then also remotely via the internet, which is very pertinent to do this right now. And as you're doing the regional approaches, which I think is a really good idea, considering your analysis county size, because that also impacts the way businesses are able to access some resources or information. If that can have any type of consideration in your analysis to develop trends. And then also just considering populations that you might not have reached out to before. We have a very active tribal community, so we have a lot of tribal businesses operating both in Indian country and in rural communities. So just, of course, want to reiterate that partnership with our local trusted agencies. And then just the consideration for the language consideration. If there are perhaps considerations in both the presentation or the deliver or the content of delivery to communities, equity seeking populations. So you mentioned the linguistic need, but I wonder if there's perhaps a way to do consideration for cultural needs within this presentation. And California is just so diverse. Just to consider broadening the scope of folks that can utilize this. But I see this as a very important project, so I'm really excited to see it develop. I'm just new to the commission, but this is really the sort of things that I enjoy participating and supporting what I do. So anything that I could do, you or your commission, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Hector. This is April. Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez. I will absolutely be engaging all the commissioners, including yourself, on these. And these are wonderful ideas, and I've written them down and we'll incorporate them for sure. I will say that one of the reasons that we chose Northern California as one of our places is because the Independent Living Center in California, where I happen to, in Northern California, in Santa Rosa area, where I started my career, actually, they have a really strong tribal connection. So I'm going to be meeting with their executive director in the future to talk about how we can incorporate the tribal aspect as well.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you, Commissioner Ramirez and April Dawson. I also want to encourage, because of multiple disabilities who are more comfortable in participating in the virtual space, I think that's important to be inclusive of that. So I'm glad that you're looking into that as being part of it, because there are many who can't attend physically but want to participate and provide their input. So I think that's a very important component to be inclusive.
And this is lastly, if you're going to do a hybrid, which I think would be that would be a fantastic opportunity to highlight. And there's a lot of learned lessons from companies. And I think somebody mentioned LinkedIn. That's a big discussion on LinkedIn. How do we do this hybrid? And so there's a lot of really learned lessons on how to do it effectively, some of the mistakes, how to engage things, taking the questions, the presentation, and even like sharing times. So if you decide to utilize a hybrid model, which I would recommend it because it's accessibility at its best, but it's also the most risky one because anything can go wrong. But that's also part of the lesson, preparing for what goes wrong when we're doing anything. But I think it would be like a great idea to highlight that accessibility modality to the participants. But that definitely would be a great opportunity if it can. But I know there's challenges. But thank you. And that's, by the way, the only reason I hang out up in LinkedIn is like, how are the people doing things correctly,
That's right. I'm getting a lot of feedback about that too. And I think if it's not possible to do that modality as you recommended, Commissioner Ramirez, we should definitely have some sort of virtual component to it, right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other discussions on this topic? Thank you again, Executive Director April Dawson. I think that's an important pulse to take in our community as a whole and as a state, our state role in regards to hearing our stakeholders' voices. And I think people just want to be heard and understood as we're moving forward. And that's our goal. I mean, I think part of my role of on this Commission for Education Outreach is exactly that, is making sure we have every voice heard, and that we reach out and provide the resources and tools for people to move forward, businesses to move forward. All right, so hearing no discussion, is there any future items that would like to have placed on our next agenda? No future items? Well, I'd just like to reiterate some of the things that we talked about today as part of a follow-up. And one of them is, I think Commissioner Ramirez brought this up as far as rooted rights in Oregon, that maybe we can look at that as a commission, as our committee moves forward in this area as far as outreach, media resources, and how we can even expand our current website. So I think that's a great resource to look at in the future as we're moving forward. And also looking at other, as Commissioner Vasquez brought up in regards to businesses using accessible sites for developing for businesses that use third-party sites for creating their own website. Boy, did I say that right? I'm not sure if I said that right. But what are some pros and cons to that? I think it's important for us to look at and put out to the business community. And which ones as a commission that we look at and based on our knowledge and understanding that we could recommend. I think that's an important tool for businesses to be able to have. And I'm sure April, Executive Director April Dawson, you'll have more agenda items, but I thought as a follow-up to what we talked about today, that would be a good.
Absolutely. And I'm taking notes from this and I can incorporate that. We can incorporate that into our future meetings and make sure we follow up on these. And I'll be reaching out to everyone as well about what was discussed. And I will also keep everyone updated on the agenda items that we had today.
Okay, great. All right, then I move to adjourn our meeting if I have no other objections to that. Oh, I see a hand up. There's no name, it's just our caller. Could you please identify yourself and your question? Okay, the hand went down, so okay. All right, so hearing no objection to adjourn, I'd like to have a roll call. Phil?
Sorry, I couldn't get my
Okay.
mic to work. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, I'll now conduct roll call vote for approval of the meeting. I'm sorry, meeting's adjournment. Please respond aye or nay when your name is called. Chair Commissioner Dr. Sue L. Hessen.
Aye.
Commissioner Hector Ramirez.
Aye.
Commissioner Ashley Leon Vasquez.
Aye.
Commissioner Ben
I'm
Conway.
here.
Aye.
Committee member Zinat Hassan.
Aye.
Committee member Arnie Lerner.
Aye.
All right, Chair Commissioner Dr. El Hessa and all CCDA commissioners and committee members' votes have been noted. The votes are as follows. We had 6 ayes and no nays.
Did we have a second, Phil? I'm sorry. I know at
I'm
some
sorry.
meetings,
Yeah,
Chair
you're
Hess-
right.
I know at some meetings, it's usually only takes one, but in ours, we asked for a second.
April,
Okay.
this is Ben Conway.
Okay.
I'll second the
You'll
motion.
be the second? Okay, all right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
All
All
right.
right, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Phil. Thank you, everyone,
yeah,
for
you're welcome.
participating. I know we all have busy schedules and your participation means a lot because you feel it's important in getting the message across to our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for
all.
being
Have a
here.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.